Okay, welcome back. We are finally back on the Nimitz build. As you can tell, I've got it upside down, and I just masked off the black, and I went around the whole thing with the airbrush with the whole gray. So that is all now the right gray. And I just peeled the masking off. Sorry, I didn't let you see me do that. But I'm just going to let that cure for probably till tomorrow. And then I'll go over it with some washes. I'll probably start with this. This is just a wash for gray models. I've used this a little bit already. Seems to work pretty good. So I'll just go over the details with the wash. I'm not going to get too carried away. I might use a black wash for the hanger doors because in all the photos those look a little bit darker. So I'll try to make those hanger doors darker. And then once all that's done, I'll flip it over and then start adding all the stuff on the top, like the little life rafts and those little spools and all the other little details that go along the top. And I got a little bit more work to do on the deck, but I think the focus for this video, I really want to get started on some of the vehicles that go on top. So once I get all the wash down and all the extra details down, I'll just come back and show you what all that looks like and what it is. But then I really want to start on the different vehicles like the tugs, the tractors, the cranes, the planes, and stuff like that, and start getting some of that done. So I'll be back with you here in just a little bit. Okay, so I got all of the antenna painted, and I got the Sea Sparrow missile launchers, a couple of antenna things that go on the tower thing, I think. Some more antenna, the anchors, and the two cutters. And also, in an earlier video, I said I had painted all of the little life raft containers white because when I looked at reference photos, I thought they looked white. Well, somebody commented and said that they're also supposed to be gray. So I went back and looked at the photos, and sure enough, they were gray. Now, I don't know if it was sun glare or what, but they looked lighter than the rest of the gray, so I just kind of thought they were white. So I repainted those gray, also the little spools and things gray. Now, what I did, though, was I took the whole gray, which is what that is now. Also, you can see I'm going in with some wash. I'm trying to highlight some of the details here. I'm going to do more. But in order to not make everything so same monotone gray, I lightened up that with some lighter gray, which is what's going to be used for the aircraft. And I did some things like the antennas and the Sea Sparrow launchers. And then I put a little bit more dark in it. And I did the cutters and the anchors. Oh, and also when it was really light, I did the life raft pods or containers, whatever you call them. So those are now gray, but they're a lighter gray. And everything else is gray, but about 3 different shades of gray, depending on what it is. Again, that's just to try to cut down on a lot of the monotoneness. I don't even know if that'll be noticeable or not, but it seemed like a thing to do, so I did it. Now, also, I made a simulated flight deck to test out some flat clears. I have a flat clear, a semi-gloss, and I wanted to see the effects of the flat and the semi-gloss and then mixing the flat with the semi-gloss. So right here, this is just the control. So this whole piece of scrap styrene was painted with the dark gray that I put on the flight deck. I masked off and airbrushed some white stripes, kind of a darker white and then a lighter white. And then that is a decal. That is just a white stripe decal that I'm not going to use because I airbrushed those. But I wanted to see how the decals reacted with the clear as well. More importantly, I want to see if the clear will protect the decals against paint. But I wanted to see how the flat would affect the base color. And as you can see, the semi-gloss mixed in with it changes the color a little bit. Not only that, but if you get the light on it just right, you can see there's some glare. And with the flat, there's no glare. And I don't like the glare. So I'm just going to go right with the flat. But one of the main reasons for doing that is to test to see if that clear will protect the decals. Because if you remember, I messed up some of the decals with a little bit of the masking tape earlier. So I just put some tape on it. I'm not sure why I did those because I don't like those because of the glossiness. But let's try the control side first. So if we take that off, it should take the decal off because it, yeah, see, just like that. So that's the problem, is the decals don't stick to the flat surface that well. So let's see if the flat clear over top of it helps. No, it did not. Let's try this. Didn't help either. That was better, but maybe because I put it on a lot thicker. So what I'll do is I will do another coat on this to build it up thicker, and then I'll try that again. Because I want to protect the decals, but if this isn't going to work, then it'd be pointless. So I'm going to put another coat on top of that and try again. I'll do that later. I'll show you what that looks like later. But anyways, this is where I'm at for now. I basically need to put all this stuff away now that it's painted. Need to put it away. I'll continue with the washes around the edges, and I'll put the cutters in, and then I'll flip it over and put all the little life rafts on it, and go from there. So we'll get back to you here in just a little bit. Okay, so I've got this right side up again, and as you can tell, I've been working on this. I've got the decals here, and according to reference photos, I painted the doors, and again, that's looking at photos. And on the other side, I've got the decal on that side as well. And when I was looking at the reference photos to see what color the doors were supposed to be here, I noticed that in some pictures, and I just went on Google and, just did some Google searching. And in some pictures, it looked just like this. But in other pictures, there was like an additional level right here. So there's like two different styles. I don't know if maybe they added that level later. I have no idea. So I went back and looked at the photos that my friend emailed me for this project, and it had the extra little ledge there, which I was kind of hoping it wouldn't have, but it did. So I made one. I just made this out of some scrap styrene and painted it, and so that will get glued on. Yeah, my fingers are too fat for that. But that will get glued on right about there like that. And I also noticed that there's supposed to be another little support coming out here with a little domed antenna thing. And this kit doesn't have that. So again, just out of some scrap styrene, I started carving out that little support piece. And this is the beginning of the little domed antenna, just some styrene that I'll carve into a domed shape on the top, and then that'll get glued onto there and then get painted. And so again, that will just get mounted on to the side, just like that. And so I'm making and adding those. I also noticed that in a lot of the reference photos, there are extra, move my camera back, notice how there's like this little pod sticking out? Well, in other photos, there's an extra one here with a little antenna thing on it that the kit doesn't have. And of course, one there and one over there. I don't know if I'm going to make those or not. I probably will. And I say that just because when I saw that those were supposed to be there that weren't, I told myself, I'll probably not make those, and yet I'm making them just because I feel like I need to. But the ones on the back here, those might be a little trickier. I'll try them, but if they don't look right, I won't do them. These are just the little, I'm not sure what they are, a bunch of little pieces that just get glued onto those little divots right there. There's a bunch of those that get glued on all over the place. So I still have to put those on. And you know what? I put those antennas on. I put the antennas on, and of course all the little life raft pods. But I went ahead and put all the antennas on, and I waited till now to put them on because I was afraid I would bump them and break them, and I just bumped that one. Fortunately, it didn't break. But since I put those antennas on, I've been bumping them left and right. And I'm glad I waited till now to put them on, but I probably should have waited a little bit longer. And all of these antennas can fold down like that and up. I don't want to play with them too much because I don't want to break them. But all of those antennas, like I almost just broke that one, all of those antennas can fold up and down. Now, a couple of them were way too loose. Like as soon as you started to fold it down, it would just fall and point all the way down. And the way I decided to fix that was I took some crystal clear or canopy glue. It's basically just expensive Elmer's glue. And I put a tiny little dot of that on the hinge part. I mean, just the tiniest little dot with a toothpick on the hinge part, and let that dry. And then very carefully worked it loose. And then that gave the friction that I need so that they don't just fall down. This one over here is borderline too loose. I'm not sure if I'll do the same thing with that or not. I mean, it will stay right there where I put it, but I don't know. I'll probably just leave it alone. But as you can see, I went ahead and have that secured on, and my next step was to secure that on, but then I noticed it had some issues, so I'm working on this. Once those pieces are on, that'll get glued on here, and then the other pieces that go here, and I'm trying to get this done so I can start on the vehicles, and I'm almost there. There's a lot of, just basically all those little tiny pieces there, and put it on. And for the most part, the main boat is pretty much done. I'm sure I will be doing a lot of little touch-ups here and there along the way. I'm sure, something like this, you could work on it forever and never really call it done. But you got to call it done at some point. So that's what I'm trying to get to. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that while I was on it. I'll get that done. When I come back to you, this will be done and installed, and hopefully everything will be done and I can start on the vehicles and the aircraft. So see you back in a bit. Okay, here's where it's looking, or what it's looking like so far. As you can see, I've got that on, and that, and that, and all the antennas, and I've got the one blast shield up, and so that's, sorry, so shaky, but that's on, and again, that's on. Now, according to reference photos, I had to add that piece right there, and I added that piece right there with that white domey antenna thing on it. So that's on. I really don't have an excuse for not making the additional white domey antennas that go here and here. There's the crane, by the way. But just kind of giving you more views around is all. And I really don't have an excuse for not making the ones that go here. So I probably eventually will, but I don't know. I'll get back to those later. For now, though, this is 99.9% done. The only thing I have to do is the numbers up front there. I'm still waiting for the image that I need to cut a template on the Cricut. But I should be getting that any day now. So except for that, this part here is technically done. All the extra stuff, that's just extra. I'm considering if it's not in the kit, then extra stuff is extra that I technically don't have to do, but I probably will. So, like I said, I'm going to call this done enough for now. And if we take a look in the instructions, The next step is the vehicles. Now, I did say earlier in this video that, and I was just going to, quickly finish this up and put it together and just kind of give a broad overview when it was done, but then focus on the vehicles. Well, apparently back when I said that, I didn't quite realize exactly how much work was left, and getting it to this point took me way longer than I expected. And so I have a feeling this video is going to be way too long. So to make it to where I'm not completely a liar, I'll make one vehicle and then I'll call the video done. In the next video, we'll be finishing all the vehicles and starting and maybe finishing the airplanes, maybe? I don't know. But I don't think I gave a really good view of the main island here. I did put a flat clear coat on the decals to help protect those. And again, you can see the little antenna thing here I put on, and the mast and that, and there's another antenna that I put on that was part of the kit. I just left it off because I didn't want to break it. But yeah, there's what that looks like. Plus, there's a whole bunch of these little spiky things that go all the way around. I put those on last. See them like right there. I put those on at the last because, again, they were small and fragile, and I didn't want them getting broken off. Same thing on the other side. That thing right there is got some very tiny fragile mounting points and a couple more of those spiky things there. So anyways, that's that. Like I said, let me put this off to the side and then we'll start working on some of those vehicles there. Well, let's take a look here. The first one, they're doing the mobile crane. So we need, man, they got so many parts in one tiny little vehicle. They could have molded that in two pieces maybe. So D39, D40, 42, 41. So we'll just go and cut those out. And we'll go ahead and clean those up and bond those together before we cut out the next parts. So wherever it was on the sprue, we'll just kind of clean that up a little bit. You could use a little sanding stick, or I find an X-Acto blade just works pretty well. And I highly recommend test fitting everything first, and here's a good reason why. This piece has a little ejection pin mark that's sticking out that prevents it from going on that all the way, and it would probably be good enough. And the little gap that it leaves probably would not be noticeable, but I'm going to go ahead and just carve that out so this piece can set in there flat. And so that sets a lot nicer, a lot flatter on there. And then this side piece goes on like that. And of course the other side piece. So I'm going to go ahead and get some solvent on these and start putting these on. I actually almost put that one on backwards. It goes this way. I almost put that on the wrong way. And you got to make sure that corner right there tucks down into that little cutout. So that took a little bit of just paying attention, getting that worked in place, because it wanted to set up on top of that lip there. But that's what that should look like so far. And according to the instructions, the next step is to put the wheels on. However, I want to paint the wheels separately. I have a paint, it's actually called rubber. It's like a, well, rubber colored simulated rubber. I'll either use that or a flat black for the tires. So I'm going to paint the wheels and tires separately, and I'll glue those on last. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out the pieces down here. Well, that glue is setting on that. Remember what I said about test fitting before you glue? Here's a good example. I didn't follow my own advice. This also has a remnant on the backside there, keeping it from setting flat. So now I got to scrape that off while it has glue on it. So you'll notice I keep pulling it out from view of the camera. That's just so I can see it, because I can't really see what I'm doing when the camera's between my face and that. But there's those two. One more piece to put on, well, one more before I have four more. Are going to go in right there. So we'll get some glue on that. Just using the toothpick to push that down into the glue where my fat fingers can't quite reach. All right, so I got the back windows, side, front windshield. All right. Next up, these pieces here. The top one's easy enough to take care of. But ones like that on a tiny little piece, those are the ones you really got to be careful not to break. These don't really have a good registration. They just set on like that. Would have been nice if there would have been a little hole in a peg or something, but they just set in like that. So these will be a little bit tricky to make sure they're straight. So I'll get those glued on, and then the front bumper piece, I guess, goes onto the front of those. So yeah, these are going to be a little tricky. All right, that honestly wasn't fun, but it's on. I think it's going to be pretty fragile. That'll probably break pretty easy. Looks like I need to sand up in there a little bit, but I'm going to let that dry before I sand it. Next up, this piece. Looks like it goes on right there. Okay, I just put the wheels on for dramatic effect. As I said, the wheels will be painted separate and added on later. But there's the first vehicle, the crane. And actually, I'm just remembering that it said to make two. So I got to make one more of those, but not this video. So I got to do all of that all over again. And then two of those, and then whatever else is down here. So yeah, once that fully sets up and dries, I'll go through and do some final sanding, and like I said, right there, looks like I got a little bit of flash I need to sand off, but I'm going to let that set for a while. And also, as I said before, I'm not going to paint anything until they're all built, but as I've said before more than once, I'm going to end the video here. Got one vehicle together. In the next video, I will, as I've said, do the other vehicles and paint them, get them all done, and then start building the aircraft. And I think I'm looking forward to the first one, but I don't know how many there are, 20. Not looking forward to the second one or the third one or the 20th one. But anyways, I'm going to stop rambling and end the video. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching.